Recorded live on the North Coast, Scotty does a show with guest Andrew LARA. Plus news, UFC 264 review, rapid fire, today's top 5, and more. And now, keeping his enemies closer, Scott Marion.
All right, what's up, everybody? What's happening? What it is? What's going down? What's the word on the street? Welcome to the show where we keep our ears to the ground and our fingers on the pulse of what's happening in today's society. I am your host. You can call me Coach. You can call me Scott. You can call me Coach Scott. No reason to call me Sir, unless, of course, you owe me money. Mr. Marion, if you're nasty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. We are back. It's been a couple weeks. And again, always, as you can see, it's always going to have a progress, a look and a change with the show and the set here in the Scott Cave. I want it to live up to its name. Actually have some, I don't know, you guys, this is probably not going to shock anybody out there. I have all sorts of creative looks and designs, things that I want to do for the set, and actually pretty soon, hopefully get to the point where we're moving the show out of my house. Although I love having it here, it's great that I can have friends over and or guests that become friends over and watch fights and do shows and things. It's great. Pretty soon, for this to really become something real, just like anywhere else, having it away from the home as a place where I can create externally. I always think that there's something about that. Just like having a gym at your home, but also getting and going to the gym. You can get results from home. And it's nice, and again, with today's technology, it's amazing that I've been able to build this with a relatively very modest budget. But just like having a gym at home, when you have a gym to go to, it's you kind of switch gears and really be able to move into a different space. So I hope to be able to physically and emotionally move into something like that and getting to a different space. But again, I'm just very thankful for where I'm at and everything that's happening. And I want to give a shout out, a much overdue shout out to Jay, Levi, and Jillian when the kids came on. Jillian, that I say it all the time, that girl is a reality show waiting to happen. Can't wait to choke out the old man when she has a chance. Is a firecracker, literally inside and out. And she was really, really pushing me, which was fun. But anyway, she, out of those two, I even told Jay, their dad, that she would be the one that would get into the cage. But just because she has that energy, she has that drive to her. I mean, some point in time, no matter what, she's going to have people working for her, whether she's as a fighter or something else. She's not going to be somebody that's going to be wearing a name tag and stepping and fetching. She's definitely somebody that's going to be getting out there and going after things. And she trains the same way, even as young as she is. Her brother is a little bit more pulled back. He's the one that's going to be a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. But man, put your hands on that kid. So they're just great kids, and I look forward to being able to meet up and train with them again soon. So big shout out for that. And also I want to put a bit of basically move on to the next bit of news right here, which is the UFC 264. I was promoting heavily the Fight Companion. I did have some technical difficulties during that, which was very unfortunate. Even though I had guests here, we were able to enjoy the fights. I do have some thoughts about them. And again, as things progress, we want to be able to get into doing live Fight Companions. That's really the goal here, especially doing the shows here on YouTube. So real quick, as far as the fights go, and I'm going to save my feelings about McGregor for the end there. The first fight, I didn't do too well on my picks, but I actually went 2-3 on my picks, which is very rare for me. But I don't mind because we learned some things. And again, when you're in combat or in life, things are going to knock you down. There's going to be a bit of a theme, especially when my guest comes on here today. There are going to be things that are going to challenge you and knock you down. And like Rocky says, having success is great, but really what it's about is learning, moving forward and getting back up, getting back up and then moving forward. So, Sean O'Malley against Mutino. The only feeling I had with that is they shouldn't have stopped the fight as soon as, with 20 seconds left. That kid put on a hell of a performance. They both did. Sean with his offense, Mutino with just his ability to absorb punishment. But to stop that fight with 20 seconds left and say that you're concerned for the fighter's safety, then you should have stopped it after that first round. Because after that first 5 minutes, it was obvious what was going to be happening in that fight, and it's exactly what happened. So let that kid kind of go out on a shield, but we'll see what happens with both those guys. I want to see O'Malley actually get somebody that's going to be ranked. That seems to be the rumbling. He did a good job of calling out some seasoned veterans like Cody Garbrandt, Dominic Cruz. It would be some interesting fights for him. And he's exciting, and he is very popular with the fans, so we'll see how things go with his career. Irene Aldana, she finished Kunitsukaya. The big thing with that is she's yet another fighter who, although her performance was outstanding, she missed weight. And anybody that's ever trained with me, that is the... And Dana White says the same thing. If there's one thing that really wants to piss me off as a coach, is you don't make weight. Making weight, it's something that we do. Whether you're a wrestler or a fighter, that's it. Not making weight, especially when you are being compensated, for God's sake, when you are being featured on a show where there is literally people are paying in person and virtually to watch you, you make weight. You make weight the same way you show up on a certain day. You make weight the same way that you, this goes out to you, TJ Dillashaw, you don't piss dirty. These are just things that you just do. And the sad part is that she became yet another statistic, as it's over 70% of fighters that miss weight that win the fights. And that's not fair. So although she looked great, we'll see how she does with the weight issue from here on out. Tayabusa and Hardy. I picked Hardy. I thought his athleticism would be something that would be able to drag the fight out throughout the duration. And he ran into a brick and and that's the thing. These guys are so big and so strong that it really takes just one shot to be knocked out. And Tayabusa, the greatest thing about him is they're missing opportunity if they don't get in to cross-promote with Stone Cold Steve Austin, because you got a guy that's drinking beer out of a shoe after he just fought a legit shoot fight in a cage. Come on. Definitely get something going with that. But he looked great, so we'll see what happens. And in my opinion, in the co-main event, I picked Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to win the fight. I felt like his momentum was looking good. He has a very unique style. And in my opinion, the performance of the night goes to Gilbert Burns. Gilbert, and a lot of people were giving him a hard time because it was a boring fight. He took Wonderboy down 3 times. Nobody else had ever done that. He did a dominant performance. He didn't do a lot of damage, but he's different. He's a different fighter. And the way that he just completely dominated Wonderboy, I don't think that, in my opinion, it looks like that Wonderboy's aspirations of getting back to the title, especially at 38 years old, doesn't seem to be so. But outstanding performance there. So, brings me to the main event, which was the trilogy fight with Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. Here's what we learned. We learned that Conor McGregor can't beat Dustin Poirier. We learned that. We actually learned that half a year ago. And the reason why, Chael Sonnen put it best when he said, you can't get better at something by not doing it. And since 2016, Conor McGregor, he has been a million things, and a fighter has been lower on that list. He's been quite frankly, he's been a criminal. He's been a businessman. He's been an entrepreneur. He's been a spokesman. He's been a wild Wolverine to a degree as far as some of his behavior. But what he hasn't been is an elite fighter. And I believe you can kind of trace that back to when Khabib really humbled him. He really did. You look at that performance, and you look at when Khabib dropped him with that right hand, and then made him tap out, and after all the bad blood that led up to that, Conor hasn't been the same since then. And Dustin, he's just been training and fighting and fighting and training with the best in the world, day in and day out and day in and day out. He's been pushed. He's been scratching and fighting and clawing every single day with just some killers. So the gap that Connor was ahead in the first time that they fought, Dustin has eclipsed that. There was nothing about that fight that in any way, shape, or form makes me think that Connor has a chance to be able to beat Dustin Poirier. His behavior leading up to the cage, talking about Dustin's wife, completely inappropriate. His behavior inside of the cage, where he's pulling his gloves down so he can do up kicks. He did the same thing against Khabib, kind of grab it inside the gloves. And he's been known as a dirty fighter for a long time. And then post-fight, the thing that Conor McGregor, a question I get asked quite a bit is, would I want to coach that guy? And something that I preach is the way you behave off the mat, outside of the cage, outside of the ring, it has to matter. It has to matter. And you can't sit there after you've just been beaten twice and your ankle is broken for whatever reason and threaten the man's life, threaten the man's wife's life. To me, it completely reeks of something that we haven't seen out of Conor McGregor. Insecurity. Post-fight, he's saying stuff about ask Dana, ask the coach, ask the doctors. I was hurt. What do you mean we need to get permission to find out that you were hurt? It's sad to see, and and what do you do with Conor next? If I was coaching him, I wouldn't coach him anymore. Period. You don't get to do that. Our sport is tough enough to be able to behave like that. I'm sorry. And we also learned that Conor, he's never going to be a champion again, which is something that I said publicly a couple years ago, and this is part of the reason why. Well, what do you do with Conor? Is he realistically a top 10 guy now? I don't know. But the bottom line is Dustin Poirier looked outstanding. He did great. Two judges actually had it a 10-8 round for that first round for Dustin. Conor and his coaches claiming that they thought they were doing well in the fight. It's absurd. Take your losses like a man, just like you take your wins. Conor, I hope I see you fight again. But I will not be going out of my way to really kind of promote you anymore. Dustin, hats off to you again, sir. Outstanding. And also recently, Islam Makhachev, who just had an outstanding fight over the weekend, looked great. Islam, who is a protege and a former teammate of a guy named Khabib, who we just talked about. Khabib, who was 29-0 as a fighter, by the way, is now 4-0 as a coach. So, and then leading up to the fight night coming up this weekend, we have a big fight between Dillashaw and Sandhagen. Dillashaw, former champion. The last time he fought was actually when I was in my last season coaching at Elyria Catholic. So he hasn't competed for a couple of years. Why? Pissed dirty. And there was a rumor that was going around about him for a long time. So he's an outstanding athlete. We'll see how he does. I'm picking Sandhagen to win that fight. We'll see how it goes. But Dillashaw is an outstanding fighter, great wrestler. We'll see how it goes from there. Some Fighting Shape news real quick. I do have the new website is going to be coming up here soon. I've been, one of my guests that was on the show here, Dan Sumter, he's been really pushing me to get a lot of things done with Fighting Shape, and again, he's become a little bit almost like a executive producer, a bit, if you will, as far as giving me some advice and stuff. So I've been very busy with that, and one of the things that I've been working on is getting my new website, fightingshape.fit. I'll put all that stuff up here. That's going to be finally getting some work done on that. This is, again, I have a million things going on. It's not a secret. For the last 20 years of my life, basically, I have been an ongoing side project, one thing or another. If it's not one thing, it's something else. And that's the way I've always been. So sometimes with having that many things going on, it gets to be a little bit overwhelming. So having somebody there or some people around to keep me grounded, keep me going in the direct path, I can't thank you guys enough for that. So that's what's going on with the website, fightingshape.fit. Also going along with that is I'm finishing up the Fighting Shape instructor program. Again, I've had quite a few people that have been certified already. I have a few that are going to be getting some more. That we will be able to get more instructors out into different gyms, including myself, as we are getting the Fighting Shape Combat Training Center ready. It's a million things. So we're going to be expanding into several gyms. I myself have actually just started training again, just a little bit. There's been it's been on and off for me for the last couple of years, and I'll get into that here later on as far as why. But I'm getting back into it so I can get back into doing more coaching on a regular basis. And then again, of course, when our gym opens up, our combat training center, I'll be there pretty much 24/7, I'm sure. So, all right. So, and then, last but not least, with Fighting Shape, I've also been having some fun. Part of my plan with Fighting Shape and the Swarm is coming up with unique and creative ways for athletes and fighters and coaches to make a living, whether they're getting inside the ring and cage or not. With the Swarm Fight team, the look and styles, everything is clearly a superhero look. It's not a secret. I'm a fanboy, always have been. So then what's going to go along with that? Why not a toy line? So I have a little thing up here. You take a look and see this is what some concepts that I have for actually putting together a toy line, which can, of course, lead into video games, things like that, too. So on that creative note, and the last little bit of notes that I have here before I bring my guest in, Marion Creations, the C-Town, the outline is beginning for getting things going with that. That's going to be my next super large piece, 5 feet by 3 feet. I might be biting up more than I can chew with that, but then again, I have a tendency to do that. Once again, that's what I'm known for. So it's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And also, finally, the scene has been chosen for storyboarding for the Thirst. I'm actually going to be storyboarding the Cold Open, which is going to be the first roughly about 10 pages. So for those of you out there that have read the treatment, it seems to make the most sense. So that's we're going to be introducing a few characters like that, having a little fun, and also getting a style across. Once that gets going, I'll be taking the storyboards and adding a bit of a very crude animation to it, and also probably 2 or 3 voice actors coming in for that as well. So it's going to be definitely a work in progress with the a work in progress. Excuse me. Definitely a work in progress with pretty much everything that I have going on. But the Marion Creations of the Thirst, it's a massive project and also incredibly a lot of fun. So that should catch you guys up on just about everything that's going on with me. And again, a big shout out to everybody that's just been very thankful and are very pivotal in supporting what I'm doing and getting it out there and sharing it. It's awesome. So you guys are great. I couldn't be doing this without you. So which brings me an opportunity to bring my guests in here. Rolling along with the almost 50, coming out of Wellington, little bit of not a little bit, definitely part of the same crew, same group, same vibe, same everything. It's great to have. Again, one of the beautiful things that about having the show is it's an excuse to sit down and reunite with some people that I may have, quite frankly, taken for granted a little bit as far as interacting in relationships and stuff. And in light of recent events, and in light of, once again, we're looking at half a century, and it hits to things like that. I remember, hitting, 21, of course, is a big deal, 30, 40, now, half a century. That's a big deal. And one thing that I preach quite a bit as a trainer and as a coach, and especially in recent years as a human being, I talked about it when Joe Howard was on the show. Take care of your body. No matter how big, how bad, how tough, how creative, how much money you have, how much influence you have, where you're from, where you live, who your friends are, who your neighbors are, all of that can change in an instant. And there are things that people go through that change them. Hell, sometimes somebody could, in our world, there are things that I'm not a real super religious guy, or I'm not really big into spiritualism, things like that. I like to keep things pretty succinct and pretty simple. And I'm of the opinion that there are opportunities and choices in life, and sometimes the idea maybe if you would have been just 2 minutes earlier when you went to the gas station, you might have ran into Brad Pitt. There's things like that. But then there are sometimes things that happen that you don't expect, that are complete opposite of that. And again, having the especially in light of COVID and everything that's been happening, what the narrative that has been lost and I've had several just incredible trainers, and hell, a guy qualified for Mr. Olympia sitting right here talking about taking care of your body, taking care of your body. Because again, no matter you can have all the attributes, all the things in the world, all the fame, all the money, blah, blah, blah. If your body is not healthy, then it's all for naught. So sometimes we learn that over a gradual period of time. Sometimes we learn that because you run into getting some bad news. And sometimes, like Rocky said, when you get knocked down and you move forward, when those opportunities come along that really hit you in the gut, you can learn a lot about who you really are. And there's a blessing in that. There's a power in that. So, rolling along with that same theme of the Wellingtonians coming through here, and everybody, despite what they say, thinking that they're not interesting, thinking that they don't have a story to tell, I say you're wrong. So, without further ado, welcome, one and only, Andrew LARA. Well, welcome to the show.
What up?
Love to have you here, man. It's awesome.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not sure how I made the pick, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Well, again, it's it's been really fun because I've reached out to quite a few people, and I've had quite a few people reach out to me, and there have been some that are, and again, I'm new to all the technology and things. As far as being able to Zoom people in, that's the plan here soon. I've had a adventurous life so far, so I've been able to cover a lot of ground, and there are a lot of people that I would love, and I would love to be able to sit down and talk to. Getting them to travel 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles is a bit tough. So the good news is with technology, I'll be able to do that in virtually here pretty soon. But yeah, there are a lot of people that want to come on that are within a reasonable driving distance, and it's quite frankly, you're here A, because I want you here, and B, I mean, you're able to roll up here on your bike. So, which I was drooling. What is it? 2019 Indian
Roadmaster.
Yeah,
I got it last year.
Yeah, he pulls up in this thing, and he tries to downplay it right away and talk about because there's a couple specks of dirt and maybe a bug or two on the front of it. And I stopped him right there, like, no, you don't get to do that. That damn thing's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well done. Well, it's a beautiful piece of machinery. Yeah, for sure. Make me jealous. For sure.
You know, sometimes life throws you a curveball, and you make decisions, and that was one of my decisions. So,
well, you earned it.
Well, I appreciate that
for sure. Well, again, for a lot of people that are out there, having the immediate influence I'm going to have. Obviously, there's a lot of people from Wellington that are going to be interested to hear a little bit. You know, definitely hear how you're doing. Sure. I let a few people know that you're coming on a show. Yeah, I've got a small group of very just amazing. I talk about them, not always necessarily by name, but a small group of just really cool, very loyal people, amazing people. And when I share with them who's coming on, there are a few of them that are pretty excited to have you come on here because, again, you don't get to downplay your influence, sir. You get to downplay your bike. You don't get to downplay your influence and also your lack of having a story because I say that's not true.
Well, before we get to the meat of the conversation, I would like to actually show you something here real quick.
Absolutely.
So a few years ago, I ran into this guy who's a talented artist, and I had the pleasure of being able to obtain a couple of his pieces of work here. So I just wanted to show those to you. These are
oh, wow.
Pretty special to me.
Wow. So. No kidding. Wow, I forgot. Holy cow. Yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
There's a Wolverine one right there. Holy cow. Man.
Yeah, so.
And then, yep. That's what I say. Like when, and to be clear, everybody, I did not know he was bringing these in when I started talking about the superhero stuff, and then, quite frankly, this one is one of my personal favorites.
Oh yeah, I like that.
It's
one
my
too.
version of Red. Well,
yeah,
I wanted to
Red Riding Hood.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Well, that means a lot, man. Thank you. Yeah,
and it says to Andy, much love.
It does. Well,
so there you go.
And I stand by that.
I appreciate.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a fun piece. Wow, I'm blown away. That's awesome. The the red piece is one that's very, it's a fun one because I wanted to make her naughty, like sexy, but not, of course, not again sexy, but
Not trashy.
right, exactly. And I wanted to make him kind of scary. So I've actually played around and done some digital coloring on that. I'll send it to you later so you can take a look at it. Because I'm an old school analog, give me a piece of paper and a pencil artist. But I got to admit, everybody out there that said I should be getting into digital artwork, you're all right. I'm sorry, every one of you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The stuff that would take me a day, I can do in 5 minutes now. It's all the designs for the toys and everything. See, I'm doing all this stuff with my phone, which is essentially a tablet. The next step, just like with the everything I'm doing here with this podcasting, is, you know as well as I do, getting into the DJ world, it's easy to spend $500 on a DJ setup, and it's easy to spend $50,000 on a DJ setup.
Oh, yeah.
In the same amount of time.
Right.
So I'm going through that right now.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, whatever media you use, you're still an artist. So
True.
You can make art out of anything. You know, people make art out of junk. You know, so really,
Some of the coolest art is made out of that, actually.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We live right over here by this cove, the driftwood. I'll see there's a guy here in town who comes and collects all that, and he makes art and stuff out of that. You're right, something that was just thrown away either by nature or by somebody can absolutely turn into
Exactly,
art.
and that's that's probably something a lot of people don't know about me. Is I actually love art. It's probably like why I love golf, because I can't do it well. It's a challenge, so I appreciate when someone else can do it, and it's. I love that appreciation because it does. It takes a special eye. It takes a special ear or coordination that I just don't have. I'm pretty good at stick figures, but my niece Max, she went to the University of Michigan, and she invited us up to Ann Arbor.
I won't hold that against her.
Yeah,
so
well,
it's okay.
nobody's perfect, but
Hey, I got a lot of good friends up in Ann Arbor, or from there. So
but every year Ann Arbor had this huge art festival downtown where they blocked off the city streets and just vendors everywhere, just amazing art, and it was quite an experience for us just to be able to see all that. Now, a lot of sculptures too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my youngest son's got an early anatomy lesson, but it was fine.
how young?
They were probably around 6, 7. So
Okay,
but
yeah,
it
that's
was
young.
it was fine.
That's young. Okay.
But I loved it. Recently, my wife and I just a few weeks ago took a trip down to Charleston, South Carolina. And
I used to manage a store down there in the North Charleston Outlet Mall.
oh, okay.
Yeah, when I was in there, I spent a lot of. I talk about just different adventures and different things. I spent a long time doing a lot of high-end retail, and I was a manager for Zales.
Oh,
there.
okay, yeah.
I liked Charleston.
I remember when you were doing that. So
Yep.
yeah,
It was that town. Tell you what, cost of living was so cheap, and I love seafood, and it doesn't get any better, doesn't get any cheaper,
I mean,
for sure.
it's a beautiful town. But
It's a hell of a ride too. That's awesome.
yeah, we went into this antique store that they call it an antique store, and basically to me it was more like an art gallery. I mean, they had all these old paintings, nothing I could really afford, but just amazing, just the history
When you say
there.
old paintings, were these 100 years old, or
At least I'm sure. Yeah, I mean,
and they were for sale?
Yeah, a lot of them were for sale. So, but it was
I
just
love
good.
that.
But yeah, we were there for at least probably an hour. So just walking around, just admiring it, and I just really love art. Again, probably because I can't do it, but nonetheless, I've got to know so many great artists along the way that part of me is happy of them, and part of me is jealous because I love it, but I can't do it. So.
Well, thank you. However, I've grown to not accept that, quite frankly, that people say that they can't do it. Because, like you said, maybe you can't sit down and draw somebody's face like their face, but I guarantee there's, to use your words, some medium, some form of art that you're going to have an advantage over me.
Well, yeah.
That's the way it goes.
My son, my oldest son, Ian, he picked up sketching and stuff, and he picked up some books, and he's actually a really good sketch artist.
That's
now.
awesome.
He draws, action figure, or what I'm saying, like superheroes, things like that. He loves the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So he's
Oh,
always
right
drawing
on.
that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's just that's pretty incredible too.
That's some good parenting right there.
I did my best.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, I'll always encourage that. And again, with today's technology, the and again, shout out to all those artists that were busting my balls for years about getting into digital art. If somebody has a proficient talent for putting a piece of paper and a pencil together and creating something, which quite frankly, that was the way I pitched my artwork for the longest time. I would tell somebody, you have something in your mind, you give me a piece of paper and a pencil, I'll help you create a universe. Like that was part of the way I would pitch it, and I stand by that. But if somebody's able to have that ability, it doesn't necessarily have to be photorealistic, but if they're able to render something that, okay, yeah, that's a chair, or that's a dog, or that's a house, or that's my dad, or whatever, you can tell who that is. By then taking it and manipulating it digitally, in a very short period of time, you can have something that's really, really cool. And then I've seen people that can't draw, to use your words, a stick figure, but the stuff that they do digitally is out of this world.
Right.
So what I'm getting at is, and this is weird for people that have known me for a long time, I'm as an analog artist and as an analog playing vinyl records DJ, digital. It's a great way to go. I mean, hell, here we are sitting here talking into microphone that's going into a mixer, going right into a laptop as my cell phone sits here and records the background into, two cameras over here. Of course, you have to embrace, like you said, some form of technology and some form. The idea that now, what this damn thing here could do. I say it every show. This thing right here. You go back to me and bring this to me when I'm in art school. Forget the fact that if I was a teenager, if I was in college in art school, I would have an incredible advantage over everybody that I was there with. So what I'm getting is, as things go and progress, I want to be able to getting into more digital stuff. I've actually, of course, started to look into tablets, started to look into more some of the touchscreen things, look at some of the things that what the Pixar artists use and what the Disney artists use. It is never ending.
Oh,
it is
constantly changing.
Oh, and if you go out and buy a book today about this cutting edge animation, it's already obsolete.
Right.
So,
and that's the thing about technology. To me, it's like a double-edged sword, really.
Yeah.
It has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. It's getting scary how well computers can design things, and you've heard of like that deep fake where they can put somebody's face on.
I have an app. It's called Reface.
Yeah.
That I do that for fun, and you know what? Some of them are scary. Yeah. How realistic it looks.
Right.
I've been told my whole life I look like Bruce Willis. Turns out I put my face on a couple of Bruce Willis videos. I maybe put one up here. Structurally, our face is about the same, so it turns out, yeah, I fit pretty well on Bruce, and it's creepy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like
Yeah.
I said, technology, good. Like a 50-year-old, approaching 50-year-old, we like our old school stuff too. You know what I mean?
Of course, sure.
I still like my my vinyl records, cassette tapes, everything like that. I still play Sega Genesis. So,
Dude, I have out there, it was a great Christmas gift. And I say this, okay. You were into video games, you and Fantine were into video games more than I was, for sure. And a couple other people were in that group too. Geyer, I remember him and a few other guys. But if there's one video game that I'll give you, anybody on this planet, I guess it'd be I don't know, a run for your money. It's the original Nintendo Tetris.
Tetris, yeah.
I'm a fiend at that game, and I'm telling you, I'm very good. I'm not saying that I will beat everybody, but what I'm saying is if you beat me, you, sir, or ma'am, or whatever the hell you identify as, that's another subject. If you beat me, you're really good. So that's the one, and I have one for a Christmas gift. It's this console, and it's got like 600 original
That's what
Nintendo.
I got.
Oh man, it's so cool.
Yeah,
I love it. And I'm the same way. I'll play that, and the reason why is I don't have a PS5 or I don't have an Xbox One. Is it safe to say that when I run with something, I get out of control, or damn near?
right.
This is what you see right. This is a movie screen. I've got a projector right over there behind us, so I watch movies and stuff here.
Nice.
If I was, and this is where when we do the fight nights and stuff, we'll actually turn and be able to watch the fights here. So watching a fight on that thing is pretty cool. But if I had a PS5 hooked up to that. It's the same reason why I don't have any tattoos.
It wouldn't just be a PS5.
It would be every one.
Right.
I'd have every game, every moment that I had. I would be here. I would be on online groups. I would be on gaming groups. I would form my own team. I would have my own logo for the
But
team.
that's how passionate you are about things, right? Is that a bad thing? I think that's a good thing.
Thank you for saying that. There are many that would say, "Geez, well, ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you
Obsessed
get
much?
Well, this is what happens when you get to be middle aged and you don't have any kids. That's the big thing.
Sure.
When you get to be an adult and you start, kind of really having, you're always going to have budgets and things like that, but you don't necessarily have to not eat for a week so you can record a show.
Right.
You know what I mean? In college, you might have to do that. You have to ramen it so you can go get the supplies you need for your art project. There's things like that you'll do. But when you're in your mid 40s, you know what? You cut back a little bit. You budget for this. You can buy. I don't think, not counting the phone or anything, I don't think I have anything in here that's more than maybe a couple $100 a piece. So you can nickel and dime that stuff together. So there's ways around. There's always ways to make things happen, though, for sure.
Absolutely.
So it's, but I'm getting into now. The way that I've learned to do things is. Example, if you just learn how to drive, you don't get a Ferrari the next day. It doesn't make any sense. That's ridiculous. Right. You're gonna kill yourself or somebody else. The difference is if I got into, I've got an 8-channel mixer here. If I had a 30-channel, 32-channel mixer with touch screen and video cameras that popped up and it would be more than I could handle right now. I wouldn't be able to do it. So
sure.
I've learned over years to master what I have and then move on to the next step. You go back on YouTube and stuff and see some of those videos and things I was making when I was coaching at LARA Catholic. I did that on a Galaxy Express phone, which is, it's half the size of this thing.
Sure, yeah.
But it was my first time really kind of getting into that. And then I moved into the Galaxy Note. Now I'm looking at the tablets and stuff. So I could have jumped right into the tablet from the beginning. But it's just, again, it's like you just learn how to sail. Here you are. Here's the keys to the Titanic. Like, well, wait a minute here. You got to slow down a little bit.
Well, hey, like I said, like DJing, you have the best equipment, but if you're terrible at DJ, it doesn't matter, right?
With one exception.
Well, okay.
The one exception is if celebrity overlaps the talent of the DJ. And you can say that in all of music.
Sure.
In the DJ world, I spent time, traveling about and doing events and shows and things. And I could have stories all day about that. But, and then, we sitting there and we're scratching, fighting, and clawing and doing everything we can to make these shows happen. And quite frankly, I know I'm good. I know I'm talented at it because I've worked hard and I have a gift. But I've also spent time around a lot of other DJs that are good at it that have a gift as well. But you don't hear about any of those people because Paris Hilton's going to be headlining tonight. Why? Because everybody knows who Paris Hilton is.
Sure.
By the way, I met Paris. I'll leave it at that.
All right.
So when the celebrity overlaps that, sometimes you have to deal with that, which is it's a tough pill to swallow. I talked about it earlier about the Conor McGregor. He's the most famous mixed martial arts fighter on the planet, but he's nowhere near the best, and we've learned that. But in the end, doesn't matter. I don't know. That's the behavior outside of the cage, in my opinion, matters. I've talked about that, but in the end, he posted something on social media yesterday about people basically you don't mean anything to me. I've got all the money in the world. You might as well come out and say it. So, in the end, when you're literally fighting for a paycheck, and you and I are doing the exact same thing, and we're working exactly as hard, and I make 10 times as much money as you, even if you knock me out, who really won? So you're always going to have that. In the DJ world, you're going to have that all the time, too, where your celebrity kind of overlaps it. But
sure.
If you had to guess, how many live events do you think you've DJ'd throughout your career? It's got to be in several hundred.
Honestly, like a lot of DJs, I was a hobbyist with it. It was nothing I pursued. It was just something I kind of fell into.
It was the same thing like Joe with comedy.
Yeah.
He said the thing because he was working full time, and
right, yeah.
And some comics, he said he kind of alienated himself from them because he had a job and he had a house and he could, was stable. And he would do that for fun and for love, for passion, for sure.
Yeah, it just really just started from, my brother-in-law was coaching the baseball team or helping the baseball team. They had a fundraiser, and I've always had a love for music. I had a pretty big collection of music, and I started collecting it digitally. And, he just asked one day, hey, we're having a fundraiser, you can just play some music.
So basically, a bunch of CDs.
Yeah, a bunch of CDs, and, and then, I borrowed a friend of mine, a little PA, so I could make some announcement. Next thing I know, I have people come up and be, are you still DJing? I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean, am I still DJing?
But it's amazing how quick you can go from just a side, for lack of a better term, we've heard this already, a side gig to, wait a minute, this is who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
A good friend of mine, Ed Alt, I think you probably know Michael.
Yeah.
Ed. So he was actually, he had a business, Jagged Edge DJ. And, he said, hey, I'm really looking for some help, if you don't
I think
mind.
Mike told me about that because you and Mike were both a year ahead of me.
Right.
And you guys both hung out with the Noise Boys quite a bit.
Sure,
you guys were not, I should say, this sounds silly because it makes it sound like we were a band. Not full-time members, but you guys were
Yeah, we always hung out with everybody.
You hung out and helped out sometimes. And when I say hung out, like came back behind where we were at and hung out with us. It wasn't like you were just picking up a speaker cord or something.
No, that's so Ed kind of brought me on board and kind of showed me the ropes about like DJing weddings and things like that, so and yeah, he really taught me a lot about it. And then I was actually working with him for a while, and then what ended up happening is I rented his equipment one time for a friend of mine's wedding because he wasn't available, and he accidentally double booked, and he's like, yeah, sorry dude, double booked, my equipment's not available. But he said, I know this other guy that's selling some stuff, so I ended up just buying my own stuff, and it just kind of took off from there, and it was fun. I really enjoyed, what I did as far as my DJing career. But the thing I really enjoyed about it a lot was I was able to kind of get back to the community, Wellington, of course, because people would say, hey, you want to do the fun? Would you DJ our fundraiser? I'm like, yeah, like, well, how much do you want for it? I'm like, I don't want anything for it. Just give that stuff to the kids, support the program, that was important to me. A lot of people didn't understand that. Well, you should do something. I'm like, you should charge something. I'm like, no, this is my gig. I don't,
And that's the ability, again, the freedom that you had because it was a part-time passion.
Exactly.
You weren't relying on that. So,
Right.
That's awesome.
So, and it, like I said, it revolved. Roger Sazak was the high school baseball coach, the varsity baseball coach, and I would DJ their fundraisers every year. And Roger always say, I'd like to thank the best free DJ in town, Andrew LARA. So that's always his thing. So, but I took pride in, being able to do that. And I DJ'd the school, like a lot of the junior high dances for the middle school, and I really enjoyed that. I always enjoyed
Credit you for not only Wellington, even amongst the DJ world, especially here in Northeast Ohio, Wellington High School, Wellington Junior High is one of the most difficult schools to DJ at. 'Cause it is all over the map. You'll be on Garth Brooks, at least this is going to date me. You'll be on Garth Brooks one second and Metallica the next, followed by Tupac, and the dance floor is full the whole time. But if you go Tupac and then into Dr. Dre, you're going to lose people. It's weird.
Yeah.
It was very strange. But being from there, which I had that same advantage because, right after high school, early 90s was when I was kicking around here before I moved out west. And it was very difficult. But the fact that I could get on the mic and I could say, hey, Ryan, hey, Marcus, and I knew these people, I could call them out. But other schools that I went to, even during that same time, I never had any issue whatsoever. It was more of a, it kind of led into the same thing when I was ended up doing like a lot of the festivals and stuff. It was more of a kind of a performance, whereas at Wellington, it's wrangling. It really is.
I understand that, yeah.
So credit you. I knew a lot of DJs that they would hire and it wouldn't work out, and they would turn to me and say, "Do you want to come back?" Because it was a difficult school to work. So the fact that you did on a regular basis I'm telling you, it's a testament to you. So.
Well, plus, my wife being a teacher there,
Yeah, exactly. Well, that
me
too.
coaching, we kind of knew the kids, and, my
Again, you can call them by name. if you
right,
want
yeah,
to.
and my son, they would help me put music together what the kids were listening to, Of course, we had to pre-screen everything and make sure it's clean, but, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we got in trouble with that. a little bit
I
in high
remember,
school.
I remember
Time.
some things.
A couple times. We
Oh, yeah.
were known for,
Pushing the limits.
a little bit. A little bit out there, you know. Just like
Yeah.
to,
So, but yeah, as many live shows. Yeah, I couldn't say. You know,
hundreds, probably. You know, over the years,
probably. Yeah.
It's
So at least hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it was fun while it lasted. But you know, I'm okay now. So.
yeah. Well, the beautiful thing is having the ability. Most people, they have a huge fear of getting out and talking in front of people. It's horrific for some people to think about that. Just the idea of, even if you have a prepared speech, you see it all the time. You go on YouTube, excuse me, and you'll see videos of valedictorians that are petrified.
Oh yeah.
These are kids that are incredible, amazing at their schoolwork, but you get them speaking in front of them, they can't do it.
Right.
They can't do it. Meanwhile, I'm the type of guy, and you're clearly the type of guy, whether you were born that way or you became that way by having a microphone in front of you for hundreds of shows, I know that you could walk out on a stage with a mic with next to no direction and be able to. Joe Howard, same thing, because that's what he's done, you know, for countless times. Dan Sumter, when he came in here, even though he didn't have a microphone in front of him, his whole career was public speaking, if you think about it. Every time he interacts with somebody, it's out in the public. It's not like
Right.
they come into his store to visit him.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. So there's a real there's a freedom in that and a power in that. The ability to get up and be able to express yourself openly in front of massive group of people all at once and do it without letting the anxiety and the nerves and things like that. Because I don't know about you, even before you get here, I'm always pacing around, looking out the window. It's the same way I get before a match or before a fight. Once the bell rings, I'm fine. You know, the same thing when I was doing like a lot of big DJ festivals and stuff. I'm sweating bullets. This guy over here is killing it. I got to follow him. He's got his last record on. I got my new record on. Oh man, I'm sweating it. And all of a sudden, boom, once I have the timing on, then it's just what I've been doing in my house for years.
Right.
So being able to control that anxiety is something, you know, I've talked about it here quite a few times. I instill that as much as I can into an athlete. Like, hey, look, this guy's no bigger than you. I know that there's a lot of people watching you, but go out and just do what you've been doing for months or years now. So it's,
Well, maybe there's some correlation between coaching and DJing because we both did that. So.
I think I would, you know what, I would think absolutely. Don't you think?
Probably, yeah, because you're giving instruction a lot, you know. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you got to be able to communicate with people, and so yeah, I agree.
Right. Well, I've known a lot of coaches and look, if you're going to especially if you're a volunteer coach and or if you're really going to dedicate your time and effort, I will applaud that. But there are some that are better at it than others. I mean, there are some coaches that are just, I've seen some coaches coach that's just like, man, I'm glad I don't have any kids, and I would never want my kid to be coached by that person ever. And then I see some coaches, again, you know, I've seen some athletes that are amazing athletes, world champion level athletes that should never coach a day ever in their life. And then I've seen some coaches that were, as a competitor, good, you know, that's successful, competitive, but as a coach, man, a lot of that comes back to that ability to be able to speak.
Right. Well, you know, again, one of the things that I felt like, you know, would make me an uninteresting guest on the show was, you know, I spent the most part of my adult life working, coaching, and DJing. So that was my life, you know. I spend most of my time doing that.
And look who you're sitting across from. That's why I say, how dare you call that boring?
So, you know, I mean, you know, you guys have gone out and done, you know, some pretty exotic things, you know, had some pretty cool careers and stuff, and, you know, but you know what? I really enjoyed my life. You know what I mean? I've enjoyed my experiences. The coaching was amazing. Again, well, just so everybody know, I was a 5-year varsity coach for Wellington High School. Prior to that, I coached the youth program. But, you know, just like a lot
What
of
sport?
Soccer.
Soccer, okay.
So
Thought so. I just want to make sure to put that out there.
So just to give you a quick background on that, you know, I have 2 boys, Ian and Cameron, 24 and 20 years old. When they were young, you know, you're trying to figure out how to be a dad, you know, like, okay, how am I going to do this? You know, I didn't really have my dad in my life, and, you know, I just didn't really know how to do it or
You
what
don't
to
really
do.
have a blueprint out there.
Right.
for you.
So
Yeah.
my brother-in-law was a little bit older than me. You know, he kind of like got his kids into his interests and stuff. Well, for me, my interest was BMX. All the
For sure. When we were, I touched a skateboard a couple times. Joe was big into it. Jamie was into it quite a bit. Joe was by far the biggest one into it. But you were the bike, and you and Geyer. Geyer was always
Yeah.
on the bike too. But
Oh,
you and
man.
Geyer you were the bike guy.
Geyer
sure.
had that pink GT Performer that I was just so jealous of.
I
I loved
remember
that thing. So, but
What? I actually remember that bike.
oh, I never forget it. But it was an awesome bike. But so I introduced my sons to we took him to a racetrack to see if he wanted to get in BMX race, and he tried it, and he didn't do very well. I just wasn't. I mean, he liked it, but not passionate about it. So, I just told him, hey, you're going to get involved with something. So, and they're in, Wellington's a small community. They're always looking for volunteer coaches and stuff. And I had never coached. I mean, I didn't even play sports in high school, honestly.
I was going to ask you. I didn't think that you did.
No, I didn't. I was athletic, but from a distance, I just, it's just the whole commitment and stuff. I didn't really have time because I was really so much into my bike that's all I did. I was just so passionate about my bike. I have this 2-wheel addiction,
Folks,
as you see.
he's not down. I mean, he's not. That's not exaggeration at all. Like he was into there may even be because you live fairly close to the high school, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that was why a lot of times we would set up for DJ gigs and things like that, and you would roll up on your bike.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause you'd meet us back behind where the cafeteria
Sure.
was. That was the spot. I remember that you lived close, and Geyer lived close too.
Yeah.
So you guys used to ride out there all the time.
Yeah. So anyways, I explained to them that you need to be involved in something. So I gave them the freedom to experience several things. They tried baseball, basketball, football. My oldest son just really took to soccer, and 4 years later we had another. Well, by the time he was starting, my youngest son was 1. So then of course my youngest started really taking to soccer, and of course again they're always calling, hey, would you coach? I'm like, we didn't even have soccer when I was in high school.
It wasn't even an option.
No,
it wasn't
so-
even there.
But I wanted to be.
It's a fall sport.
It is a fall sport.
Yeah, because when we were there, it was either golf, football. That was it, really.
Yeah.
Golf
So-
or football.
So again, I got kind of pulled into this realm of, but again, I wanted to be involved with my kids. You know what I mean? I thought, okay, I'm trying to be a good dad. I'm going to be involved with what they do. So, didn't know what I was doing. I've had, years by, just trying to learn how to coach and stuff. And it's not an easy task. As you have to develop as a coach. You're not always going to be a great coach to starting off.
Good coaches develop, for sure.
Exactly.
Bad coaches think that they don't need to.
Right.
You're right.
So I kind of involved there. Didn't have as much success with my older son's team, and he kind of went off to high school. At the same time, I was coaching my younger son's team as well. And again, I was a lot more experienced with that one. We had a lot more success with that younger team. So part of the things, I have a really good friend, a couple good friends, Chris Coker and Jeff Bartolovich. They were dads like us, just coaching. I think Coach Coker is the only one who had soccer experience, but he really taught me a lot. Jeff Bartolovich really taught me a lot, so we decided to take my youngest son's team into a competitive league. We were recreational at first, and we said, you guys are doing really good. Let's go competitive. So in order to do that, I had to get a coaching license.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, I had to take these classes.
Background check, the whole bit.
The instructor was from Holland, and I think they're actually issued a soccer ball at birth there because he was.
Well, 2 things: soccer ball, but also shin guards because they're kickboxing. Seriously,
Exactly.
You want to go to Thailand or you want to go to Holland if you want to learn how to kickbox. I'm not kidding. So you're right. Soccer or shin guards. So their shin guards can double up.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, I went to this class, and when he was running me like I was a player, he's running me this drill. I'm like, listen, I'm a coach. I'm not a player. He's like, well, you got to be able to instruct these skills, aren't you? I'm like,
right.
yeah, good point. So I ended up getting my license, and we did really well. Like I said, in our competitive league. And then what ended up happening, the head coach of the varsity team resigned. Another coach took over for just 1 year, but I was kind of helping along. And so he resigned after 1 year, and they kind of heard about me. Someone had mentioned me because my younger son's team was doing pretty well. So they brought me in for an interview, and I ended up getting the position, which is, I had no intention of coaching high school soccer, it's just, but I thought it was a good opportunity for me. And, you talk about success, and we were always a small team, and I tell you, everything changed once you got into high school. The competitiveness just shot up, and it was just amazing. And the first year was a little rough, it was just because, it seems like, oh, well, we played these guys last year in the competitively, but now we're getting our butts handed to us. I'm like, whoa, what is that about, So
things change, though.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're talking about kids that age, too, the difference between 14 and 15, athletically, physically, they could change dramatically, too. So you might be able to handle them when you're 14, and then 15, they might be young men that you're taking on. So there's things can change. But you're right. It's weird because, man, I was able to dominate this person, but why not now? So, but there's whether it be the extra pressure. Sometimes people physically develop quicker. There's a lot of things.
And again, Wellington being so small, we didn't have like the JV team anymore. Or, a lot of substitutions.
It's A team.
So I would always tell the upcoming freshmen, listen, you're gonna be going against 18-year-old guys who probably look like your dad, have full beards. You know what I mean? But don't let that intimidate you. So. But
easier said than done sometimes. But yeah.
So, but anyways, the first year was a little rough. The second year, again, and this is, you talk about success. I felt successful in my coach. That's one of my highlights of my life is my actual coaching career. It's short-lived, but other than the youths. But so the following year, I ended up
short-lived or not, man. I had 2 years at EC, and I hope maybe I'll coach high school. It doesn't matter. 2 years, it'll impact me if I never coach high school again. For the rest of my life. So whether it's short-lived or not, just the fact that you said it's important.
Yeah, well,
because the running theme here, I'm not going to let him downplay some of this stuff. Well, on that damn bike.
Well, so again, my accomplishment there is I actually won Coach of the Year the next 3 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because not because we were conference champs or anything, but because other coaches saw the change in the program, saw the improvement. They said they love playing Wellington.
That's awesome because a lot of times the coach that has the most success, although they deserve recognition for that, not necessarily the best coach. I said, if I took over, if I got the call today that I'm going to be the new head coach at Lakewood St. Edward and we win state next year, is that really because of me? Did I really do that? No. You already had this amazing machine that you came around that last lap of the Indy 500. You let me hop in and cross the finish line. I didn't do anything.
Right.
So you absolutely, that's credit you for that. That's awesome.
Well, and it's also my assistant coach. Again, my influence from Chris Coker and Jeff Bartolovich, this was my assistant coach. They were a big help to that too. So I always say we won Coach of the Year. I don't want to take that.
Well, you're right. Yeah.
So, and then also my team won the Sportsmanship Ethics and Integrity Award for 2 years. So that was a huge accomplishment for me, and I think for the school and the program.
That might be the biggest accomplishment of all.
Yeah. So again, that's probably one of my proudest moments.
You're teaching them to not only be athletes, you're teaching them to be men.
Well, yeah, we always correlated life lessons with playing on a soccer team. You gotta learn to overcome adversity, work as a team. Communicate. Learn how to control your temper, be professional. We always integrate all that together. And, and I coach some really amazing kids. And the biggest payoff for me as far as coaching is, it became a family,
Absolutely.
And,
for sure.
I just love it,
Well, you spend more time with them sometimes than you even do your own family.
Oh, yeah, definitely, and, I just love when the kids come to me, hey, Coach LARA, how you doing?
That's awesome.
So it's, they still call me Coach and stuff. And I consider them my kids still, it's weird. They're not really my kids, but I consider them my kids. So I'm kind of protective of them. I like to check up on them, make sure everybody's doing good. So I really enjoyed that.
That's awesome.
It's been amazing. So
I don't think that for some people, that'll never change. When I see John Sedlick, I can't call him John. I got to call him Coach.
Coach, oh yeah.
I can't do it. And, Bill Waters will call him John. And he's spent a lot more time around him in the last 15 years, to be fair. But I can't do it. I can't. I see him as Coach.
Right.
He'll always be Coach to me. And that's why I say at the beginning of every show, and I poke fun at it, but I say that when I teach a class. I tell somebody, I didn't grow up in a traditional martial arts background, so you don't need to bow to me. You don't need to call me sir or sensei or master. I don't give you belts. I don't have any of that. I can train your body, and I can teach you how to fight. So you can call me Coach. You can call me Scott. You can call me Coach Scott. More often than not, there's one kid, I've talked about him here on the show. His name's Robbie. I actually missed him by 1 year coaching at Elyria Catholic. Super great kid. He's out of college now. I've been working with him sporadically because he has a new job and things. I've never walked down to the mat with him. I've never walked down to a ring or cage with him. ever. But he calls me coach.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, even when he was going to school in Spain, he was sending me messages, hey, coach, here's my grades. So it's like, you can't put a price tag on that.
Right. It's like a term of endearment.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a sign of respect.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real, I take that very serious. You know, although I have light of it here on the show, and for my Fighting Shape brand, my name is Coach Scott, and there's a reason for that, because my name's Scott, I'm your coach, and I want to keep it simple for the brand too. I'm not going to, in like the fighting characters and the nicknames and all that, those are all real nicknames. So creating fighters into superheroes is kind of easy if you think about it, because a lot of people kind of, when you figure less than 2% of people on the planet will ever do it, yeah, you're kind of a superhero a little bit. So it's easy and it's fun, but it's it's an honor to be called coach.
Yeah.
It's and there are unfortunately some athletes in my life that because of their behavior outside of the ring or outside of the cage, they don't get to call me coach anymore.
Yeah.
And I won't tolerate that. And like I said at the beginning, if I was coaching Connor, and even though it's going to be all the notoriety and the biggest payday and this and that, no, not like that.
Right.
It has to matter, because the bottom line is now Conor McGregor's a dad. His kids have seen him win one fight against a guy that kind of on the downside of his career. And then his kids have seen him lose 4 fights and then behave like that.
Right. And we always coach that, against that defeatism attitude, if you're going to lose, you lose with integrity and respect. It's a win-lose game.
Sure.
You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Either way, you just be glad you're out here playing, you're competing. That was a big thing.
Well, it's the golden rule.
Right.
If you beat me, I don't want you in my face and pointing a finger at me and strutting around and making fun of me but on the flip side of it, I also don't want to be sitting there behaving like an idiot to you as well, because it's just like, yeah, if you beat me, you know what, shake my hand.
Right. Respect to you.
Right. Or vice versa.
Right.
That's even in the last fight that I had there, and there's a story to that hasn't really been told. There were some things but I don't make a big deal about it. I lost the fight, and everything that I agreed to, I lost the fight. There were some things that led up to it that, look, because I could have complained and this and that, I didn't, and I won't, because in the end it doesn't matter. What matters is I had a hell of an experience. It got me to where I am now with that, and because I didn't complain and bitch and moan, and also because I didn't go back on what I agreed on. I know it sounds vague and cryptic, but now I have a great relationship with not only that kid, his team, and everybody else down there in the islands. So I can keep my head up, even though there's an L on the record. And what matters is, even leading up to that, when I was almost 44 and leading up to that, and people are like, what happens if you get knocked out? I was like, it doesn't matter. What matters is I did it. I did it the right way, and I know that before and after that, I looked myself in the mirror, and I know I could not have worked any harder. I know I could not have prepared any better at that moment in time. So that's where the victory is. But trying to instill that in a 15-year-old is not
Right.
You knew me when I was 15. You think I would have been able to process that?
Yeah.
No way. No way. It's the, like I said, the double-edged sword. It's the challenge. Like, how do you convey this message that even when we were that age, weren't able to understand?
Sure. Yeah.
It's a real challenge.
And I know you probably didn't have me on there to talk about my coaching or DJ career, but
Kidding, I told you we don't really have an agenda.
So one thing I wanted to say was, back in high school or whatever, my senior year, I started dating my current wife, Rhonda, and she was she was in college studying to be a teacher, and I thought I was the coolest kid in town because I was still in high school dating a college chick. But had I known,
you might have been at that moment though, if you think about it.
Had I known how much teachers made at the time, that may have been different. But your mom was a teacher, so
Yep.
actually that's the point of my story. Actually, your mom was my oldest son's kindergarten teacher, and he loved her.
She had she had a big influence for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Impacted a lot of people.
Oh, she did. She's
And
an amazing woman.
and teaching is teaching. You're right. It's not something that you want to get into if you really want to. If you want to have the house in Maui, you know what I mean. It's
Right.
not.
But no,
It's not the career for that.
it's kind of a calling, I think. You know.
I think so.
Yeah. So kind of like nursing. I think nursing's like kind of a calling.
I would,
you know?
yeah.
So 'cause
Nursing, yeah. Now when you start talking about medical field, you start getting to something like vascular surgeons, things like that, where there's a real art,
Right.
and there's a real gift
Sure.
to the hands that some of these surgeons have. I mean, you talk about having an artistic hand to create something. It's one thing to create a piece of art. It's another thing that somebody's life, as you know, is on the line by one little flick. And that, quite frankly, although I'm very confident what I can do with a pencil, I do not want to have a scalpel in my hand ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't want to have, call me a puss, don't care. I don't want to have that responsibility.
Oh, I agree.
I don't want that.
I agree.
And you talk about a calling and a gift. There are, you see movies and TV shows and things about, some of these incredible surgeons and things that they can do. And even, we're talking about technology and how they can do a lot of things virtually and stuff. There are people that are in one country doing a surgery in another.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And because again, if you have those incredible hands, but you're going through something like you just went through, where you have these incredible hands, but man, you can't travel to Switzerland to go operate on this person. But maybe if we can get Andrew to be able to perform for 5 or 6 hours in his home, he can do the surgery. And then it gets to the point where, I mean, with technology advancing, artificial intelligence might be able to start taking over a lot of that and being able to see things that we can't. On one hand, I think that's amazing. On the other hand, I think that's terrifying. The idea when that a machine can do things better.
Well, it's happening.
Yeah,
It really is,
Well, it's it's sad. I put a picture up, and I say this all the time. I'll be back on Facebook soon, but I put a picture up on Facebook a few years ago of a group of high school kids visiting an art museum. You talk about looking at art, and they're all staring at their phone.
Yeah.
There's pieces of art on the wall that are, I mean, just.
Well, again, like I always talk about, technology is a double-edged sword.
It is.
So
it is.
Yeah.
And I think that, being an artist is, you talk about a coach and a DJ and an artist, they're all kind of wired a bit. I love, I'm at the point now where I don't think I'm ever going to have kids. But the one thing that will outlive me will be my work.
Absolutely.
When I have, you just brought some in tonight, that if you take care of those, they're going to outlive both of us.
Oh, sure.
And there was a time that I really, just like anything, you talk about as we get older and you learn things, there was a time that I never understood how precious that really is.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that somebody, I create something for somebody or they buy it from me or both. And, some point in time, who knows how long from now, they don't know me. They don't know the person that bought it. Maybe they bought a house that somebody had and they find a box somewhere and there it is.
All right.
So or it's hanging up somewhere. That's that to me. And it may sound a little silly, but doing things like this podcast, doing this show, these are all things that are going to outlive me.
Sure.
And the goal for me is I just want to do a good show. I want to do a good piece of art. And I've come to the point where I feel like if I don't at least not want to sell this piece, I'm not doing my client justice. When I have, it's like Da Vinci said, there's no piece of art is ever finished. It's only abandoned. So even some of the pizzas that I've shown you that I have here, I could always make them. I could always go back to it.
That was like always watching Bob Ross when I was a kid. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
it's perfect. Why do you keep adding to it? And then he would make it even more spectacular.
There's there's a the same thing. Be like, what do you do? Oh yeah. So and that's something I've learned a lot. And there's a time I even joke about it, like it's ready for its abandoning point.
Right.
So I like feeling that when it's time for me to hand that over, I don't want to. I want to keep it.
Right.
I'd rather just have it.
Sure.
And selfish, don't give a damn. I don't care. I feel like if I'm not putting that effort and that quality into it, then it's doing a bit of a disservice, in my opinion. Because if that damn thing's going to outlive me and outlive you and outlive your kids and outlive whoever, then you know what? I want it to be something that's going to be good.
Right.
So it's something that as I've gotten older, especially as somebody that dabbles around in a lot of creative or entertainment, however you want to put it, there's, writing, like I'm talking about the comic book and all these things I'm doing, there's always the lure, the dangle of, oh, it could become a movie and make a big money and all this.
That's not why you do it, though.
Could that happen? Cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, could it? Sure. Would that be? Of course, that would be great. Of course.
Sure.
But I really don't give a damn.
Right.
I really don't.
Right.
I don't care. I've learned as I've gotten older, where I take comfort and power, that's a word that's come up a couple times today, is in two things and two things only. Whenever I look at somebody and I see their success and I see what they're able to do or what they are doing or how they're behaving, and if I feel myself feeling jealous, like I saw your bike, of course I'm jealous of that. It's beautiful. Guess what? I owned a Harley and I lived in the Caribbean when I did it. So do I get to be jealous over you? No, no, of course not. I've had amazing experiences.
Yeah.
But I'll be able to shift that. But make no mistake, if that damn thing fell in my lap, I could think of worse things.
Right.
So what I always go back to is whenever I had this discussion with some young kids, some of the young fighters, things just like, when Connor's name or these other people come up that have these massive successes, like, yeah, what do you ever get jealous, things like that? I'd be lying if I said no, never. But when I look at somebody and I start feeling that way, I always ask to myself two questions. Number one, can that person keep up with me? Can they keep up with me with not necessarily on the treadmill, not necessarily on the punching bag, not necessarily on road work, not necessarily in typing per minute. I'm saying working, projects, focus, output. Because from the minute I get up to the minute I go to sleep, I don't stop. I don't stop doing stuff. So number one, can you keep up with me? And number two, can you do what I do? And I always go back to that because I look at somebody like Conor McGregor, the risk is a running theme here, I'll probably never have the resources that he has. But I'm willing to bet I can draw better than he can.
I'm pretty sure you could.
I'm willing to bet I can.
And just let me say, your transformation over the past few years has been incredible.
Well, thank you.
Very impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So-
It's discipline, hard work, but worth it.
Yeah.
And we'll jump into that. There's, but that's where I take that's where I get my power from. I look at somebody like that. It's like, yeah, man, that bank account would be great, but I also don't have to sit there and threaten a man's wife and his life. I don't have to behave like that, and I can draw better than he can. And I'm willing to bet that I can probably host a podcast better than he can. Maybe not. Maybe he clearly can talk well. So who knows? So that's where I pull my strength in that. So, but thank you for the the kind words about the. And I'm sure you understand this. I hit a point where, when I moved to the islands, is really what it was. I moved down there right near the equator, and it's hot.
Oh, yeah.
And I was very heavy. And the point where I had to wear a suit, I had to walk a quarter mile from my place to work. That was tough, even in a beautiful place like that. And I, as a former athlete, I'm like, hell with this. I know what to do. It's like I didn't know.
Right.
I just wasn't doing it. I was being lazy. So I started moving. And that's something that the message that's completely been lost over the whole COVID thing is taking care of your body. Now, again, this is not to dismiss anybody that's been sick or anybody that's had any problems with that. But the pre-existing condition overwhelmingly is obesity. Overwhelmingly is people that have too much body fat on their body. When they get sick, they die from this. And it's not a secret that people that if somebody's a chain smoker, you should not be surprised if they get lung cancer. It should not be a surprise. But sometimes people, there are ways you can make a direct correlation sometimes between, okay, pre-existing and this and that. And then sometimes, for lack of a better term, shit happens. I use Jason Hartman as a great example.
No, yeah.
And he's come up on the show here a few times, and it's hard for me to name anybody that's impacted my life any more than him. This is a guy that just about as straight edge as you could get. Just about. I mean, he had his fun and everything, but he was never reckless, and he was just dealt that.
Yeah, it was horrible.
And we were all in our early 20s.
Yeah.
And although there had been some people that had come and gone in our young lives at that point through accidents and things like that, Jay was different because he was not. He wasn't into things that were reckless or dangerous or things. He was into a tough sport, but he was not. Matter of fact, we had a great relationship because I was definitely the wild one. And he and I, when we would hang, I was the voice of adventure, and he was the voice of reason when we would hang out. But sometimes people get dealt things, and we're saying here at the beginning is it teaches you a lot. Jay taught me a lot just by being able to stand there next to him, because I wish that there was more that I could do. But at the time, that's all he wanted.
Yep.
And you recently, have been in a bit of a fight.
Yeah. So back in September of 2019, I was diagnosed with advanced stage 4 gastric cancer. I've been doing chemo for almost 2 years now. So I could tell you a little bit, about that. So, it actually,
how's how you doing? How's
all things considered, I'm doing pretty good. So,
good.
So just to go back a little bit, I was having some issues that I would never have correlated anything with cancer. Nothing major. I was just like, man, I'm having trouble like swallowing my food or something, and didn't think much of it. And I was in the, starting of soccer season. That was my 5th year. And, I was like, well, I'll go get checked out after soccer season. Well, didn't last that long. I was having some more issues. So, I ended up going to the ER. They did a CT scan. They came back and they said, yeah, listen, you have a mass in your stomach that we believe is cancer, and you might want to get that checked out right away.
And they said it just like that.
Just like that. And
who was there with you?
Just my wife, Rhonda.
You and Rhonda?
Yeah. So we were together. So you kind of go into that moment of disbelief, like, like it's not real, and a little bit of shock, like.
Sure.
Wait a
minute. This isn't on TV. This is happening.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, you hear that word,
sure.
You're like, wow. So, I had to go in for several tests. They did a biopsy. I met with the surgeon first. He said, "Hey, it could be I just lost the word, ulcer. Mm-hmm. We don't know yet until we get in there."
What size was it?
It was like a
golf ball.
No, it was probably about the size of, I don't know. Yeah, maybe a golf ball.
Golf ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they found out it was actually growing in between the pancreas and the stomach, and they weren't exactly sure where it was actually coming from.
Oh, wow.
So they weren't sure if it was the pancreas or the stomach at first. So they had to go in First biopsy didn't show anything, so we had to wait a couple more weeks.
What dramatically difference would it make? Would the treatment have been different had it come from one or the other?
Yes. Okay. Well, and pancreatic cancer, much worse.
Okay, so it was not pancreatic.
It was not pancreatic cancer.
Because pancreatic, when the little, again, I don't want to pretend to even understand or know a lot about it, but the little bit when I've heard that, it's never been good news.
Yeah, no, it's typically not. So,
Yeah.
So, and I was talking to the doctor. I was like, well, I said, if it is cancer, what could we do? And he says, well, that all depends on if it had spread to different places or anything like that. If it's not, because they have to stage it, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4.
Right. Stage 4 obviously being the worst.
Right. There's no stage 5.
Right.
So,
there is, but it might as well be stage 0.
Right.
Yeah.
So we, he said, well, what we would do is we actually would surgically remove your stomach. I'm like, how would that work? And I said, he said, what they would do then is it's almost like gastric bypass surgery.
Yeah.
And they would just create like a small pouch from your large intestine that would act as your stomach, and you would have to have supplemental vitamins the rest of your life, blah, blah, blah. Just kind of, best case scenario.
You had to completely change your diet and everything then, too.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
You couldn't eat much at all,
Yeah.
So I went in, like I said, I went in for the biopsy. They did an ultrasound and a deeper biopsy. Got out of that. The gastroenterologist advised me. He said, yeah, it's definitely cancer. We think it's coming from the stomach. It actually grew between the pancreas and the stomach. It was actually growing into the lining of the stomach. So
wow.
I had internal bleeding is what it was. So
that's where the pain was coming from.
I didn't have much pain at all.
Really? Oh,
no, not at all. Just
well, that's
passing
good
blood.
news.
Yeah.
Well.
So again, not a lot of symptoms. But anyways, they kind of traced it back to 3 years earlier. I was diagnosed with a bacterial infection in my stomach called H. pylori. Okay. I have no idea how I got that. So that was.
How do people normally get that? Do you know?
They said they really don't know.
I think I've heard of that before.
Yeah, so that actually caused I had a lot of pain with that. It's like I felt like my ribs were bruised or something, and
yeah,
but I'm trying to be a man, like, oh, it'll get better. You know what I mean? I just never really
put your head down and get through it.
Yeah, I had a lot
Especially
going
from
on.
A guy that's been jumping BMXs his whole life.
So I had a lot going on personally, and I just didn't really have time. I was, oh, it should go away. Well, I went in to the doctor, and they said, oh, you got H. pylori. It's a bacterial infection. We don't know what caused it, but we're going to put you on antibiotics. Should clear up in a few days. Did that. That was fine. So come to find out, they said, so again, fast forward, I'm talking to the gastroenterologist about my biopsy results, and he said, did they ever test you after your antibiotic when you had H. pylori to make sure all that got cleared up? And I said, no. And he said, we believe
that's where
wow. It originated from. So yeah. So again, it's like, wow, so anyways, he says, well, we're just waiting for more test results. We'll get a hold of you and let you know what we're going to do. We'll structure some type of treatment plan for you. So maybe a week or so later, I get a call from the surgeon, and he calls me. I just pulled in the driveway from work, and he says, well, you have advanced stage 4 cancer. And I'm like, what does that mean? He says, well, it spread into the soft tissue of the abdomen. You have cancer cells in the soft tissue of the abdomen, which is called the peritoneum, and we cannot remove that through surgery. You can't live without that. That's like the little sac that keeps your guts all moist and stuff. So unfortunately,
there's no synthetic or artificial or anything they can do for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, so I said it's non-operable. All we could do is treat it. I said, okay. I said, well, sounds pretty bad. Like, how long do I have? And he said, a year, maybe. I was like, okay. So, well, my initial thought was, well, that sucks.
And he said it just like that.
Yeah. But again,
you're going almost word for word verbatim. Like, so how long do I have? And he said a year, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a year,
Just bluntly like that.
But he says everybody's different.
Sure.
So, but he said,
they have to be diplomatic about that, sure.
So he said, well, we're going to set you an appointment with an oncologist, and he'll discuss that more. And unfortunately, I was home by myself. My wife and kids weren't there, and I just didn't know how I was going to tell them. I didn't know.
So this was over the phone?
Yeah, this was over the phone.
And I thought maybe you were in the office.
So no, he called me as soon as I got home. So I was just kind of at a loss for words. So,
So you're in the house by yourself?
I was actually standing outside in the driveway. I just pulled in, and I was outside.
And you get arguably the worst news you've ever had.
Right. Right. So, yeah, so I just, Rhonda got home and I was like, well, we got to go for a walk, because she knew we were all waiting for the results. And
Yeah.
so, I told her, and it's very upsetting, you think about
Sure.
it. And
God, I can't. I mean, you guys were teenagers. Been teenagers since you've been together. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
That's. I mean, whether you've been
30 years.
yeah, so whether you've been together 30 years or 30 months, you're still going to be emotional with that.
Yeah,
of
and
course.
it's so, but then there's the so that's like, okay, so that's the initial. I said, well, let's get some more details. Let's figure out this a little bit more. Let's not jump to any conclusions. So they had actually set me up with I went to Cleveland Clinic main campus, and I spoke to
Yeah, they're excellent.
yeah, I spoke to an oncologist there, and basically he was telling me again the findings. He said, what we're going to do is we're going to set you up on a 2 medicine chemo treatment. And it'll go for 48 hours. So you'll do it once every 2 weeks.
So you actually go in and stay in for 48
Well,
hours?
actually, I actually wear a pump.
Oh,
I
I'm
have
kidding.
a
Oh,
little-
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I have a little fanny pack that holds this pump that.
I mean, you talk about technology. I mean, that's insane.
So it just disperses.
Awesome.
The,
I mean, yeah, you have that. I mean,
Yeah.
to be clear, I wish you never did, of course. But if you're going to be able to, you can at least have some freedom with
right.
that.
So everything's new. Everything you don't know what to expect. You know what to think. But you get to that point. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do what I have to do, and I'm just gonna move on. And and having to tell the boys, I'm like, listen, okay. I said,
Well, credit you. Not a lot of people make that choice, and and I'm sure you can understand how some people can regress
sure.
when they get that kind of
Yeah.
that news.
I told them, I'm like, listen, I need normalcy right now. I said,
Sure.
when the shit hits the fan, we'll do it then. But I just need normalcy. I want to continue my life. So how are we doing on time?
No, we're all plenty of time. Yes, I'm good. Just make sure I'm not sitting in front of not having the computer in front of my face. So
I guess I should have warned you.
I'm in no hurry, man. Go right ahead.
So, but yeah, so like I said, it's a shock for everybody, and and then you have a lot of support. It's amazing, how much support you get during something like this. You get a lot of blankets too. I don't know what it is about cancer patients, but apparently they give you a blanket. So,
That's true, actually.
so
Never been a cancer patient, but I've been around a few, and that's what I hadn't thought of that, but that's true.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
get a lot of blankets. But and so I decided, the book of life is the same for everybody. You're born, you die. It all, our story, ends the same. What you put in between there is up to you. You know what I mean?
Agreed,
Like how you
yeah.
fill those pages is up to you. The story you leave behind is up to you. So, I decided, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my life. So after I'd met with the oncologist, he's like, well, if the chemo works, 1 to 3 years. So, it's like, okay, I know, again, this is an estimated time. Nobody knows for sure. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But on the flip side of that, so I said I've been doing this chemo. On the flip side, I'm doing better than the doctors have expected. So I actually transferred over a little bit closer to home for my treatments. I go to Lorraine now. But my doctor is like, she called me like an inspiration. I'm like, inspiration? She's like, well, you get such a great attitude, and you're doing far better. You're tolerating the chemo well. It's working really well. I think better than they expected. So
Well, it's because of that attitude. That's
Well-
why. That's why. It's because of that attitude that's why you're being able to absorb that and being able to progress.
And I can tell you this. I've always enjoyed life. I've always enjoyed my friends, my family. Well, for the most part,
It's true. The entire time that I've ever known you, you've never been a guy to walk around and kick over something and just bitch about somebody. You've never been that guy.
No, I've
ever.
always tried to, enjoy
Ever.
it because I know, life can be tragic at times. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
you want to enjoy the good times while you can.
Yeah.
And honestly, I draw a lot of a lot of my inspiration from good friends of mine. I'm gonna go back to my coaching, my little coaching experience here to tell you a story. But back in 2013, as a youth coach, I had a player of mine. We were participating in an open gym at the middle school, and I was playing with them. We were sitting outside talking, busting each other's chops, just laughing, having a good time. Practice ended. They came out and got me and said, Coach, Drew fell down. He's not getting up. This is Drew Geyer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I ran in there and, he had fallen and, it looked like he was having what I thought was a seizure,
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, somebody call 911, somebody let his parents know because, he'll probably be confused when he wakes up. Well, he wasn't getting up. So,
Oh, you were there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I had to go into CPR with him. Then the EMT showed up and, his parents, Tom and Brandy Geyer, showed up and, it was just pure chaos. Probably it was the worst thing I've ever been through. It's, it's not only, parents' worst nightmare, it's coach's worst nightmare, something like that happening.
He was 14?
Yeah, 13.
13, so it's like
14. Yeah, so, but
in a heartbeat.
It was,
Man.
it was crazy. It was like how your training kicks in, though. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was just so chaotic, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, I would need, because I was there alone with him, and I'm like, I need some help. You know what I mean? But, your training kicks in. Okay, So we did what we had to do. Unfortunately, like I said, he ended up passing away.
Yeah.
After the ambulance took him and Tom and Brandy left, I didn't know what to do.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, God, what do I do? I remember I was hyperventilating.
Did you know then when the ambulance left?
No.
Okay.
No, they rushed him to the hospital. So again, I didn't know what to do. So I said, well, I can't let Tom and Brandy be alone during this. They didn't have much family around here. So I went up to the hospital and they were still working on him. They were still working on Drew, and we were standing outside the room there, and then they called, and all hell broke loose. I was like, oh my God. So just seeing what Tom and Brandy went through, I couldn't imagine anything worse than that. And so what ended up happening, is they talk about survivor's guilt. Have you ever heard of survivor's guilt?
Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't the only one experiencing that. I felt like I failed. I felt like I did something wrong. I said, Tom, Brandy are going to hate me. They're going to want to know all these questions and stuff. What happened? What did you do? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like,
Maybe even blame you.
You're right.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I just remember, of course I didn't work the next day, but I went the day after. And I could think about was them and Drew, and I just was sitting at work, and I just left, and I got a call, and it was Tom. I'm like, oh geez, I'm like,
Here it is.
do I answer this? I'm
Right.
like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. So I answered it, and he says, hey Andrew, he's like, I got a question to ask you. I'm like, okay, sure, man. And he's like, would you be a pallbearer at Drew's funeral? And I just lost it. I lost it. I was like, wow, because I was expecting the complete opposite. And so I, totally lost it.
The day Jay died, and I went to his mom's house and, walked in the door. I had the exact same thing.
Right.
She came up to me and asked me if I would be a pallbearer, and that's when it became real.
Right.
So
yeah, it hits you.
You just brought me back.
Yeah.
That was
So
yeah.
So that was a very tough time. I went through.
I drew an art piece for them, by the way.
Really?
For the Geyers. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
With Drew. Yeah, it was. That was in 2016. If I remember
I don't know if
right.
I saw it or not.
I put it up on Facebook. It was a picture of the three of them, and it was the Kansas Jayhawk, and
Oh.
because I know that was
Yeah.
his team and
Oh,
all
yeah.
that, and I put his number and the Dukes thing on there. Yeah. I'll put a picture of it up here on the show so you can see it.
Okay.
And I mean, it was a nice piece to draw, but I wish I never did.
Yeah.
It's like that.
You shouldn't have to.
Just like the one I did a few weeks ago for the son, the one kid I coached that made it to the state tournament. His dad has a friend whose son is dealing with cancer, and he's 3. His name's Ashton. So I drew that piece called Iron Ash, where I drew him in the Iron Man outfit and stuff.
That's awesome.
And apparently the parents loved it. So on one hand, an honor. We talked about that because this is something that's going to outlive me, and to be able to create that. But I wish I never did.
Yeah.
Same thing like the memorial for Jay.
Yeah.
I had the honor to paint that not once but twice, and I sure as hell wish I never had to do it in the first place. So,
Yeah.
when you get that call and you get that question,
I couldn't even say it.
I can
couldn't
look you
speak.
right in the eye and say I understand how that
Yeah.
feels.
I couldn't speak. I just like, I was trying to say I'd be honored, more than honored.
Yeah.
But I couldn't really say anything. So,
Well,
like
I don't really know them, but everything I've heard, they're just good people.
oh gosh, yeah. And again, so as the years go by, we always get together, that day and then his birthday, and I tell
And
you
I
what,
imagine after your diagnosis, they were.
yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. So, but again, how I draw my inspiration from them is because, they took this tragedy and turned it into something positive. They created the Drew Guy Memorial Foundation,
Yep.
and they do fundraisers. They give
Which
so
you
much
talk
back
about
to the
inspiration.
community. Right, exactly. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone do something like that over something like this.
Yeah.
And just being there firsthand, seeing what they went through, and to watch them overcome that and turn into something positive. I feel like my problems pale in comparison to what they did. Shit happens. You know what I mean? But I lived my life. You know what I mean? I lived a good life. And I plan on continuing living a good life. As long as this road takes me. So that's how I feel about it.
Well, let's hope we're only halfway, man.
Right,
How about that?
Again,
Let's hope.
so again, I'm focusing on living, not focusing on dying.
Good.
So,
Well, it's an overused, get busy living and get busy dying. But it's an overused cliche. But there's a power. Here's that word again. In that, it's true.
Right.
It's true. You're at a point in your life right now where I'm assuming you're probably not planning on having any more kids.
Absolutely.
Okay, probably not.
My brother, my goofy brother Rudy, my younger brother. Yeah, he's like, yeah, you should have one more. I'm like, no. Could you
Shout
imagine
out to you, Rudy.
I said, could you imagine how this kid was? I was like, I'm doing chemo. I have all these.
Yeah,
I have
come on
like
now.
this.
Not now. Not now.
I was like, yeah, now's not the time.
No.
Lord knows what the side effects would have on this kid.
Well,
so.
you know what? You might get, and here's a beautiful
But that's
thing.
Rudy,
Again,
sorry.
if you, I'll go ahead and throw some positive energy out there. Ride this thing out, figuratively and literally. Ride this thing out. Enjoy yourself for a long time to come. You and Rhonda might wake up one day and say, maybe you want to adopt.
Well, I don't think that's happening either.
Probably not, but you might.
We just recently paid a visit to my niece I was telling you about that lived in, Michigan, Ann Arbor. She moved out to
Yeah.
Austin, Texas, and she has two
town.
young ones, so two and a few month old. She has a little son and a little daughter. We were wore out after spending a week with those guys. Like our backs were hurting from
no, I
carrying
get
around.
you,
Like,
man, I know.
we don't have baby shape. You know what I'm saying? Like we're out of shape for weeks, but
that there's a reality in that for sure.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and
so-
that's the thing. It's like, and again, thank you for what you said. I do take care of my body. I work very hard, but you're turning 48 in a few days. Happy early birthday, friend. I'm turning 48 in a little bit over a month. If I was chasing around a kid in diapers, you know what I mean?
Right.
We have a 4-year-old Scotty, and he could be a handful sometimes.
Sure.
And you know what? I can lock him in a cage and not get in trouble. I can't do that with an infant. So, of course, I would never consider that. But I'm making a joke about it. But there's something to be said about having the ability to actually physically interact and play with kids.
Oh, yeah.
And I say this as a joke, but I'm absolutely true. I'm a coach. I have dozens of kids
Oh yeah.
all the time.
Oh yeah.
All the time. And sometimes I spend more time with those kids than their parents do.
Yep.
So for me to, I don't have that gap, it's like I can mold these kids and teach them and train them, and then I can give them back.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I don't need to worry about them borrowing the car,
Right.
or doing some dumb shit like I did when I was a kid. There's always going to be that, and that's also why when I get around friends of mine that I grew up with that are good parents, hats off to you, because as you know, as a coach, there are human beings, and I use that term loosely, on this planet that should not be able to take care of an iguana that are raising children.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it's the one thing you never really hear a politician or anybody in charge ever talk about.
They're voters.
Right. Exactly. You know, and once again, if you want to get into like the root of problems, where does it come from? Usually, almost always, statistically across the board, how are these kids raised? And it's the one thing that it puts accountability on the parents. And guess what? You're right. The parents are the ones that are pulling the lever when it comes into the voting booth. So if I'm running for a job and the way I get this job is by public opinion, I'm not going to tell half the public that you guys suck. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Although it's true.
Right.
So it's a challenge. But you know, I love the interacting with the kids and stuff. But then again, the beautiful thing about not being a parent is I can come home and spend all my extra time and money on stuff like this
Right.
too. And then also, you know, the ability to, if an opportunity comes along, I can move, I can do things like that. You know, as somebody that's put some miles behind and had some creative outlets. I just had a buddy of mine reach out to me just an hour or so before you came here on the show, a friend of mine from LA who sends me a message and says, "Hey, can I call you tonight?" I know what that means. That means that they have some project or something for me, probably.
Right.
That's the way it goes. And I know me. Matter of fact, when you leave here, I'm going to sit down and work on a tattoo design for somebody. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't stop.
Right. Well, good for
But
you.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I can't. If you know, you talk about get busy living or get busy dying. That's, for me, that's living.
Oh, absolutely.
It is. And when you live that way and truly live and do what you want, even when you're diagnosed with a horrible, something that's horrific, I don't wish that upon anybody. There are going to be people out there that are going to be envious of that because you have a brand new bike, or you go live in the Caribbean, or you do a podcast, or there's going to be people out there. We say it all the time that envy and shame can rip people apart.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I had a friend of mine recently just reach out and kind of poke fun at my podcast here and belittle it a little bit. And it's like, look, it's a piece of art. And, you know, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Definitely somebody's going to come and belittle what I'm doing here. Definitely, envy has nothing to do with it at all. So before you get that out of your brain, get that right. Nothing to do with it. No envy, no jealousy at all. So let's go ahead and remove that.
Oh, great.
If somebody's going to go ahead and reach out and try to belittle my artwork, whatever medium it is, like we talked about at the very beginning, and you know what? You can piss off. If you call yourself a lifelong friend and you're going to reach out and you're going to try to, you know, belittle somebody creating something, then it's because, in my opinion, they're not able to ask those two questions. Can you keep up with me? Can you do what I do? And when I get somebody out there that decides they want to talk smack or try to, you know, belittle or whatever, I ask those two questions. And what it boils down to, if the answer is no on either one of those questions, then you go ahead and just go ahead and zip it up there a little bit. Just go right ahead. If the answer is yes on both of those questions, have a seat. Maybe we can work together.
Right.
Imagine what we could do.
Let's see it.
Holy cow. Yeah. Because I could do some pretty cool shit.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do.
Right.
But that being said, you know, when I've had, the older I get and the more things, different or outrageous things that I do, the more of that shit that I have to deal with, the more friends that are just kind of nitpicking and for whatever reason. And it's sad, but what I won't do is I won't fight them. I'm not going to make a big, that's why I'm not going to out them on here. It's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put any energy into that. And I mean, when you talk about energy, example, like the Geyers, that energy of that sorrow whether you're religious or spiritual person or not, or if you're a scientist, like, guess what? Einstein proved that energy doesn't go away. That energy is a powerful thing. That sorrow, that pain, that anguish, that helplessness, the feeling of empty, alone, all of that, everything negative that you can throw into that does not go away. So what do you do with it? You can turn it on somebody because you're envious and jealous of them. Or you can take that, switch it, reset it, internalize, and get to work. Whether it be dealing with an illness, creating a project, raising a family, whatever it is, if you're going to be bombarded with that, whether it be from another human being, their words, or your body working against you, what do you do with that energy? And what I'm saying is, credit you for not getting in the fetal position and turning the shower on
No.
and trying and crying and wanting it to go away. Did you have moments when you felt like doing that? Of course you did. Of course you did. I feel like that all the time. Not all the time, but I do feel like that. Of course. I shouldn't say all the time. But there have moments when I feel like that. And I've never gotten that phone call before. So to feel that way is fine. For Conor McGregor to be pissed off because he just got beat and got his ankle broke. Of course. I expect you to be upset. I expect you to be hurt physically and emotionally. But you don't threaten a man's life.
Right. It's
And just like when you, having your family, and your wife of 30 years plus now.
well, we've been married 27, but
But you've been together for 30. So,
26. Sorry, dear.
well, when you're around that, when you pass a quarter century, that's why you shift that energy,
Right.
and that's why you do that.
And you talked about leaving your mark and how your work is going to outlive you. Just recently, again for the Geyers, again where I draw a lot of my inspiration from. We just recently got approval from Wellington, the Village Council, that they're going to rename the recreational soccer fields after Drew Geyer.
That's awesome.
So I was very happy for them too. So it's again leaving their mark, leaving Drew's mark. Just memorializing Drew.
That
what
is-
and what they represent. It's just amazing. It was a special moment for me as well. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
again, that's why I say I draw a lot of my inspiration from that. And
Yeah.
they just stay positive. That's what I want to do. I'm going to be honest with you. Cancer sucks. Cancer has wreaked havoc within my friends and family a lot recently.
I don't know anybody that's not affected by it.
Right.
I don't know one person. I don't know one single person that somehow, some way is not affected by it.
I just found out today that my aunt, who had been battling liver and pancreatic cancer, she got diagnosed after me, actually, just last year sometime. She went in for a follow-up. They said, the chemo's not working. There's nothing else we can do, and I'm like, it sucks. But
I'm sorry.
It's part of life. Like, it's just amazing. Like, her daughter had it, her granddaughter had it. So I don't understand. It's terrible. My cousins had it, but it sucks. And it actually affects the ones left behind. That's who I care about. That's what I'm concerned about. But
Sure.
and I did the best I could do. I'm make sure everyone's well off. I'm very proud of my boys. I know that they can take care of stuff. If anything happens, when things happen, they take care of their mother and stuff. So
Well, again, that's good parenting.
Oh yeah.
So that's feedback.
Well, it's Rhonda. Honestly, I'm not going to take all the credit. She's like, the ultimate mom. Kind of makes me look bad sometimes, because she's such a good parent, and I'm the hard nosed. No.
That's the balance, though.
Right. Exactly. So.
It's without the yin, you can't have the yang.
Right.
Peanut butter and the jelly, son. That's the way it goes. Come on now. That's
But yeah,
beautiful.
I got some great boys. I know,
Good.
and again, I have peace of mind, and that was the biggest thing. So
Right.
I got my ducks in order. I have peace of mind.
You, sir, just hit the bullseye.
Right. So
Because, once again, all the money in the world, all the fame, all of this, all of that. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, whether you're on a 100-foot yacht in silk sheets and you're sweating bullets because you can't sleep, then who really is the winner?
yeah.
So that right there, sir, credit you for that. To have the peace of mind. There's a there was a great episode of Joe Rogan's podcast when he had Kevin Smith on there. Did you see it? You're a fan
I think
of his?
I did. I do like
I'll
that
send you a
stuff.
link to it where he talked about his heart attack and that he's in the hospital and he's on the slab. And, there it was, I forget the exact term of it, but it's called the widowmaker. It's essentially the heart attack that he had, which is it's a 20% chance of you making it through. And he tells the story, and I obviously I'm a good storyteller, but he experienced it. So I'll send you the link. You can check it out. I'll even put it here it's one of my favorites. And he talks about he was in the operating room and they're getting him prepped, and the one nurse turns to him and says, "Hey, your wife's on the phone. You want to talk to her?" And he said no. The reason why he said no is because he wanted to have something to look forward to. Because he's like, there's part of me that said that I said to myself, if I talk to her, that's going to be a farewell. So I want to have. I love my wife. I love talking to her. I look forward to talking to her every day. I want to look forward to talking to her. And he said that when the nurse told his wife that and hung up the phone and came back in, and Kevin was like, because he's still, even when you're having a heart attack, you can be conscious and you can be lucid and talking and things. Right. So he was able to comprehend. And he says, he asks him, so was my wife mad? And the nurse goes, yeah, dude, she's pissed. Well, how could she not be pissed? And then he described that the feeling that he felt before he went under was a real kind of feeling of, okay, well, I lived a life. There's and he talks, there's a real great comic book called The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. And there's a character in there played, called Death. And she shows up sometimes, and sometimes she has to come for an infant. And there's a scene in one of those books when they say, this isn't fair. This person here got 100 years, and this one get this. And again, I'm chopping it up here when I'm telling the story, but she looks and says, the child got what everybody gets, a lifetime. And it was interesting when he was describing that, and he was having that feeling, because he had a discussion with, I think he was also talking about his aunt or something, and she experienced a very similar feeling of just all of those responsibilities, every responsibility that you have, whether it be feed the cat, to taking care of your family, to going to work to pay the bill, or to make sure you got oil in your bike, or any responsibility that you can imagine that you have is gone. That the oh shit wasn't there. It was just, okay, this was the life that I was given. And it's a very inspiring speech in the way that he talks. And it's really, it hit me quite a bit, because I have, I've lost people that from diseases. I've lost people from accidents, things like that too. But, when I have people I care about that have to go through, that type of thing, I just found it very inspiring.
Yeah.
And, here's a guy who's massively successful and this and that, and he just, okay. This is, and the fact that he said that he consciously said, no, I don't want to talk to my wife, because I look forward to talking. And everybody there was kind of surprised, like, holy shit, because everybody knew his chances weren't good. But, that's not necessarily the smart. To be clear, I'm not recommending people out there to do that if you're in that position, but it worked for him. And it was a great inspiring story. Yeah. So,
I get it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
And when you've had that phone call and you've had that conversation and you've had to pull your soulmate aside and say, hey, look, we might be looking at, the end of the tunnel here.
Right.
That's a conversation that maybe it's selfish. I hope I never have to have that, ever. I mean, make no mistake, I hope to be an old man in a bed someday. But the way I live, if I might be flying in the Caribbean sometime and have the lights turned out. But it's one of those things that you never want to like pick and choose and things like that. But I think Kenny Rogers put it best when he said the best you can hope for is, is to die in your sleep.
Right.
Shout out to you, the gambler. So, I mean, in the end, pulling strength from that and being able to take that energy and shift that and put the people that you care about ahead of you. Not a lot of people will do that.
Well, yeah, I feel very fortunate. I'm still able to work, basically full time, so I can afford that motorcycle. But
so what's which is great. Again, that you haven't been able to miss a lot of work, right? Or
my boss is great. He's like, just take whatever time. But
That's great.
I'm a worker bee. I've always worked, and I mean, I have to keep moving.
It's part of the Drug Mart crew right here. By the way,
right.
Shout out to Fantine and John Robb, who was on the show.
Oh, yeah. Drug Mart crew. But
you had working since 15, since I've known you.
Yeah. So we were there quite a while. But like I said, I'm fortunate. I've been able to tolerate my treatment well. Keep moving. Chemo does knock you out. When I finish up, like I said, I do a 46-hour treatment once every 2 weeks, and just some weekends I just can't get off the couch. I just don't have the energy. But
sure.
I try, but just sometimes I can't. But like I said, I've got a great support system. My family, my siblings. That's thing about family. They drive each other nuts, but they're always there to drop at a dime. They're always willing to do whatever you need done. Like I said, unfortunately, my sister lost her daughter, my niece, several years ago to a four-wheeling accident, and we pulled together then, and we've had to overcome a lot of tragedies. Our other one sister passed away a few years ago, and and that's this thing, we're always there for each other. So having them definitely helps. Again, they give me peace of mind knowing that if anything happens,
they're
going to take care of each other.
Yeah.
They're going to take care of my mom, my wife, my kids, whatever. So they definitely give peace of mind, and that's important in life. You know what I mean? I think, all this drama and all. I've always tried to be drama free. I recently did a lot of traveling around some of these big cities. Me and my wife went on a 2-week road trip
on the bike, right?
I wish. No, we took a Corvette. My brother-in-law insisted we took his 2019 Corvette Stingray. So I'm not one to argue. So, but it was fun.
Glad to hear you're struggling, through everything.
I don't want to say cancer played a little part in that, but maybe. But well, so
if so, awesome.
So
you know what? Who cares? Take any positive thing you can from that.
So we ended up going to like Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Savannah. We went to New Orleans, and we ended up in Austin.
Awesome out there.
And doing all those travels, I just realized how much I love my little house out in the country. I like my little quiet. I mean, it's great to see all that stuff and interact, but I really like my little house in the country.
It's your land. It's your castle.
Yeah.
So it's for lack of a better term, it's your island.
Yeah, my quiet little space. So
good.
I've been very blessed, and I'm very wherever this takes me, I have peace of mind. I've enjoyed my friendships. I cherish my friendships. I'm glad, we can still keep in touch and reconnect. And, and that's true for like all my friends, and even, my extended soccer family, we've always had such a good relationship, but, it's because I'm kind of a people person, so I
Not kind of, you are.
so, but.
That is awesome. And you know what? We're a little bit over 2 hours now.
My bad.
We're going to go. That's a great. Well, again, we can sit and talk all day, and having somebody that I've known for 30 years plus now to come and hang out and reunite has always been. Always do the same thing. We always meet outside in the parking lot. It's like no, kind of talk on the air, but yeah, you're right. It's amazing to be able to stay in touch, and it's awesome that you came on. Before we wrap things up here, we actually do have a bit. I always have some type of bit or something coming on here. So,
oh Lord,
we have a special bit. It's something that I did when I had Wilkins on the show here, and it's a bit that goes back. It's something that you all have to go all the way back to junior high and start doing this one. It's something really cool that we like to call rapid fire.
oh great.
So here it goes. Very simple. Basically, it's very simple. A lot of times, there are different ways you can do it. Sometimes I'll say a name, excuse me, and then you'll say the first word that comes to mind. Today, we're going to go either or. What I'm going to name two things. You just have to pick one. They're just completely random for whatever reason. There is no wrong answer, and you can't think and you can't say both. You
Okay.
have to say one. Ready? And here we go. Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Football or baseball?
Football.
Rave or rap battle?
Rap battle.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
RV or motorcycle?
Motorcycle.
That was an easy one. Steak or lobster?
Steak.
Batman or Iron Man?
Batman.
CDs or vinyl LPs?
Vinyl.
David Lee Roth or Axl Rose?
Axl Rose.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Ooh, good job. All right, man. So always have to have some type of bit, something going on here. Again, the door's always open, man. Anytime you ever want to come on, anytime you ever want to share anything,
I appreciate it.
if there's anything that I can do, I know that you're, what you're going through. I can only be hopefully, being selfish or not, a spectator. Having seen other people go through that before, but if there's anything that I can do, you guys said you're always come up to the town here. There's some great spots to eat, hang out. Let me know next time you're coming around, and I'll give you a little bit of the sunset view, which is the best that we have here. But if there's anything that I can do, and of course say hi to Rhonda, shout out to you, and of course to say hi to the kids.
Hi, everybody.
You guys are awesome. Thanks again for coming on.